I never thought anyone would know. It was supposed to be just for me. One quiet moment. A stolen breath in the middle of everything I'd been suffocating under. I didn't plan it. I didn't even think it through. It just happened. The house was quiet. That kind of silence that sinks into your skin. No one home. No footsteps. No distractions. Just me and the stillness. I remember standing in my room, towel around me, water still clinging to my skin from the shower. I caught my reflection in the mirror, and I didn't even recognize myself. Tired eyes, drooping shoulders, a face that hadn't been touched with affection in God knows how long. And all I could think was, when was the last time I felt wanted? Not needed, not tolerated, not just there. Wanted, desired, seen. I laid back on the bed, let the towel fall. It wasn't about lust. It wasn't even about pleasure. It was about feeling alive. Feeling something. Something real. Something that didn't come with silence or cold glances or empty dinners eaten across from a man who barely looked at me anymore. For a second, I forgot everything. Until I opened my eyes. And there he was. My stepson. Standing in the doorway. Still. Quiet. Watching. My heart dropped. I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. He didn't say a word. Just stood there. And I don't know how long he'd been there. I don't know what he saw. But I know that in that single moment, something shifted. Not just in him. In me. Because I didn't cover myself right away. I didn't scream, or yell, or jump up. I just stared back. And for the first time in so long, I felt seen. And that terrified me more than anything. And if you're still here, still listening, maybe there's a part of you that understands what it means to be so unseen for so long, you start to forget you even exist. Maybe you've been there too. In that place where a single look, a single moment, feels more intimate than years of being loved. I'm going to tell you everything. The truth. The parts I'm ashamed of, the things I still don't fully understand, and the moments that still keep me up at night. But before I do, if stories like this make you think, make you feel, or make you reflect, even if they make you uncomfortable, please take a second to subscribe to Shocking Infidelity Saga. Because every week, we dive deep into the untold truths behind closed doors. The kind of stories people whisper about but never dare to say out loud. You ready? Let's go back to where it all really started. After that moment, that silent, breathless moment where Steven and I locked eyes, nothing was ever the same. Not even the air in the house. It felt heavier. Like it was carrying secrets now. But maybe the shift started long before that. Maybe it started the day I stopped laughing without thinking. I'm 36. Married to Tom for 8 years. 8 years that used to mean something. We were happy once. Or at least I thought we were. There was a time he'd reach for my hand in the car. Brush my hair back just to look at me. Touch the small of my back when we passed each other in the hallway. It was all so simple and so full. And then, it just stopped. He didn't change overnight. It was slow, like watching paint fade. A missed goodnight kiss here, a longer workday there. The way his phone slowly became more important than I was. He'd sit on the couch after dinner, scrolling, answering emails, nodding at my voice like he was only catching every other word. And eventually I stopped talking. Stopped trying. Stopped reaching for him, because every time I did, it felt like I was reaching into an empty room. He doesn't cheat. At least not in the way people think of cheating. No other woman. No hidden texts. No lipstick stains. Just nothing. Emptiness. Silence. Emotional absence. And that kind of neglect? It eats at you in quiet ways. I started feeling like a ghost in my own home. The house itself, suburban, clean, curated, feels colder than it looks. Granite countertops. Stainless steel appliances. Neutral walls. It's the kind of place that photographs well, but doesn't hold warmth. Doesn't feel lived in. Not anymore. Not by hearts that actually touch each other. Even my bedroom, my supposed sanctuary, feels more like a cell now. Neatly made bed, untouched pillows, nightstand drawer that holds more dust than intimacy. And that's where I was that day. In that space that used to mean safety, seeking out a moment that felt real. And Steven, he came back into our lives just a few months ago. 19. Just finished his first year at college. He needed a break, he said. Wanted to come home, take classes online for a semester. Said he was tired. Said he missed home. And I believed him. Or maybe I just wanted to. He's quiet. Always has been. But lately, there's a weight in his eyes I can't quite place. He notices everything more than he lets on. The kind of boy who doesn't say much, but when he does, it's never wasted. When he moved back in, I barely recognized him. He'd grown. Taller. Broader shoulders. A little more facial hair. But it wasn't just that. There was a stillness in him now. Something slower, deeper, heavier. He started doing little things. Dishes without being asked. Taking out the trash. Picking up groceries when I forgot. Not in any obvious way. Not to show off. Just quietly stepping into the empty spaces Tom left behind. At first, I told myself it was sweet. Just a boy being helpful. Being thoughtful. But there was something else too. The way his eyes lingered. The way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. Like he was trying to understand something. Or maybe, like he already did. And I'd catch myself doing the same. I didn't mean to. But when someone finally sees you after years of being invisible, it's hard not to look back. There were moments, small, innocent things, that started to feel less innocent with time. The way our hands brushed when we passed in the hallway. The way he'd lean against the kitchen counter while I cooked, listening closely, asking about my day in a way Tom hadn't done in years. And the way my body responded? That scared me more than anything. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. But it did. Not because of what we said, but because of what we didn't say. Because in a house filled with silence, sometimes, a glance is louder than a scream. And all of that, every unspoken thing, led to that moment in the bedroom, where I let myself feel, just for a moment. And Steven saw me. Saw everything. And he didn't flinch. He didn't run. He didn't look ashamed. He looked awake. Just like I suddenly felt. I wanted to pretend it didn't happen. I tried to. I avoided him. Stayed in my room longer. Took longer showers. Left the kitchen when he entered. But the air between us wouldn't clear. It just thickened. And deep down I knew this wasn't over. Because something in both of us had been awakened. And neither of us knew how to put it back to sleep. It happened on a Thursday. Tom texted around 4 p.m., said he'd be working late. Again. No apology. No warmth. Just a statement. Another night of dinner alone. Another night of silence echoing off the walls. I didn't even respond. I stood in the kitchen for a while, just holding his message. Staring at the screen like it was supposed to tell me something I didn't already know. Then I turned it off. Put the phone face down on the counter. I poured a glass of wine. Took it with me upstairs. I didn't even bother finishing the laundry I'd started earlier. I left it sitting in the basket, halfway folded. I just didn't care anymore. I lit 2 candles in the bathroom. Not because I wanted to be romantic, but because I wanted to feel something other than fluorescent light and numbness. The warm glow. The smell of lavender. A flicker of softness in a life that had grown too sharp around the edges. The bath was hot. Almost too hot. But I sank into it anyway. Closed my eyes. Let the heat crawl into my bones and melt away the tightness in my chest. And in that stillness, something opened. Not my body at first, my mind. I started remembering things I hadn't let myself think about in a long time. The way I used to laugh without checking the room first. The way Tom used to kiss my shoulder while I stirred the pasta. The way I used to feel when someone touched me like I mattered. And that loneliness, it turned into a need. Not lust. Not fantasy. Just a hunger to feel like I was mine again. So I dried off. Carried the rest of my wine to the bedroom. Left the door half open out of habit. I didn't even think about it. I laid down on the bed. The candles flickered through the doorway, casting shadows across the floor. My skin still warm from the water. The sheets cool against my back. And I touched myself. Not for pleasure, not really. It wasn't about climax. It was about reclaiming something that had been taken away from me. My own hands felt foreign at first. Like I wasn't sure if I deserved that kind of tenderness anymore. But then, I leaned into it. Let go of the guilt. Let go of the silence. For the first time in so long, I felt present. There was power in it. Control. Not over anyone else, just over my own body, my own breath, my own skin. I closed my eyes and let the moment swallow me. And then, I felt it. Not a sound. Not a creak. Just a presence. I opened my eyes and looked toward the door. And there he was. Stephen. Standing still. Not moving. Not saying a word. Just watching. He wasn't leering. He wasn't grinning. He wasn't ashamed. His face was unreadable. Calm. Focused. Eyes fixed on me like he was trying to understand something deeper than what he was seeing. And I couldn't move. My breath caught in my throat. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. My hand froze, still resting between my thighs, my legs half draped in the sheets. Part of me wanted to scream, to yank the covers up, to tell him to get out. But I didn't. I just stared back. Because something in his eyes told me he knew. Not just what I was doing, but why. And in that moment, I didn't feel shame. Not immediately. I felt seen. In a way I hadn't felt in years. And that's what terrified me. Because it wasn't just about being caught. It was about what he saw in me. The hunger. The ache. The woman underneath all the dust. The one no one else in this house had noticed in a long, long time. And I knew, right then and there. In that 1 second, everything changed. Not because of what I did, but because of what he saw. That night, I barely slept. I kept staring at the ceiling, watching the shadows shift across it, listening to the ticking of the wall clock like it was counting down to something I didn't understand. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him. Stephen. Standing there. Silent. Watching. I kept asking myself, did he see everything? Did he turn away and I just didn't notice? How long was he standing there? But the worst question, the one that made my stomach twist into knots, did I want him to see me? That's the one I couldn't let go of. Because the truth is, I didn't stop right away. I didn't scream. I didn't cover myself. I just froze. Like part of me didn't want the moment to disappear. And that thought, it made me feel sick. I got out of bed around 5 a.m. just to do something. I made coffee, fed the dog, stared out the kitchen window like it had answers. I didn't know what I was supposed to feel, so I felt everything. Shock, shame, guilt, embarrassment, all at once. Like a wave crashing over me with no break to breathe. I told myself it was a mistake. That these things happen. That I hadn't done anything wrong. Not really. I didn't call him to the door. I didn't invite him to watch. It wasn't like that. But then I'd go back over the moment again and again. The door, half open. The wine, the candles. The way I let my body move freely for the first time in years. Was I too careless? Too desperate? Did I leave that door open on purpose, without even realizing? And why? Why couldn't I stop thinking about the way he looked at me? The next morning, I heard his footsteps come down the stairs before I even finished my coffee. My hands were trembling when I reached for the mug. I didn't look up at first. I couldn't. He sat across from me at the breakfast table. Not a word. I watched him from the corner of my eye. He didn't seem shaken. Or angry. Or embarrassed. Just quiet. Like nothing happened. Like everything happened. I finally looked up. Just once. Our eyes met for a second. Just a second. And then he looked away. But in that second, I saw something. Not judgment. Not disgust. Something else. Something that made me feel even more confused than I already was. And then Tom walked in. He sat down at the table with his usual sigh, still typing on his phone, already half in another world. He said good morning without looking at either of us. Took his coffee. Started scrolling through emails like the people sitting in front of him didn't even exist. And I wanted to scream. Because my mind was on fire. My body's still humming with confusion and guilt and something else I couldn't name. And the man I married, the man who used to make my heart race, didn't even notice that the world was falling apart inside me. I watched Stephen eat his cereal like it was any other morning. Like I wasn't dying inside. And I wanted to ask him, what did you see? What did you feel? What are you thinking now? But I couldn't. Because I didn't know if I wanted to hear the answers. So I sat there, staring into my coffee, pretending everything was normal. Pretending I wasn't unraveling under my own skin. Pretending I hadn't felt more seen in one accidental moment than I had in years of marriage. I kept trying to make it make sense. He's old enough to understand. He probably didn't mean to watch. It was an accident. A mistake. That's all. But deep down, I knew. I didn't really believe that. Because accidents don't linger. Accidents don't stare. And accidents don't leave you feeling wanted. I tried to push it down. Told myself to get over it. That I was being dramatic. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw that doorway. That sliver of light. His silhouette. And the way his eyes didn't flinch. I should have locked the door. God, why didn't I lock the door? And maybe the real question is, why didn't I stop? After that morning at the table, things didn't go back to normal. They just changed. In small, almost invisible ways. Stephen never said a word about what happened. Not once. No questions. No awkward jokes. Not even a glance that could be brushed off as a mistake. But something unspoken passed between us. Something that hummed in the silence like electricity just waiting to snap. He started to notice me more. Or maybe I just started noticing that he noticed. He'd help around the house. Folded laundry without me asking. Picked up my favorite brand of tea when he ran errands. Started cooking eggs the way I like them on Sunday mornings. Little things that Tom hadn't done in years. Things that didn't scream anything on their own. But together, they started to feel like a whisper in my ear. Sometimes I'd catch him watching me when I was doing something completely ordinary, loading the dishwasher, reaching up into the pantry, tying my robe a little tighter. And when I looked back, he didn't look away. Not anymore. Our eyes would meet. Hold. Just a second longer than they should have. Just long enough to make the air between us feel too warm. Too tight. Too much. And I hated that I noticed. I hated that I started leaning into it. I started paying more attention to how I looked before I left my room in the morning. Nothing obvious, but I'd leave the top button of my blouse undone. Pick the jeans that hugged my hips a little better. Wear lotion that smelled like vanilla. Not for Tom, he wouldn't have noticed if I walked in naked. But Stephen? His eyes always lingered just long enough. And that made me feel something I hadn't felt in years. Seen. Desired. Alive. And then I'd look at myself in the mirror after he walked out of the room and feel disgusted. What was I doing? What kind of woman lets her stepson look at her like that? What kind of woman looks back? But even as I asked myself those questions, I didn't stop. Because there was this pull between us now. A tension so thick, even the quiet moments felt loud. We'd pass each other in the hallway, shoulders brushing just enough to leave a trail of warmth on my skin. In the kitchen, he'd reach behind me for something, and I wouldn't move fast enough. His hand would graze the small of my back. My breath would catch in my throat. Neither of us would say a word. But we both felt it. We were walking a line neither of us dared cross, but neither of us could stay away from. I started watching for him without realizing it. Listening for his footsteps on the stairs. Noticing when he came home. Feeling something tighten in my chest when he left the house without saying where he was going. And the worst part? There were moments I wished Tom would notice. Just once. See the way things were shifting. Say something. Care. But he never did. He was still buried in his work. Still at the office late. Still eating dinner with one hand and scrolling through his phone with the other. One evening, I was reaching into the cupboard for a glass. Stephen walked in behind me. I didn't hear him at first, but I felt him close. His arm reached around mine at the exact moment I grabbed the glass. Our hands touched. And we didn't pull away. Not right away. Just stood there. Fingers overlapping. My breath held. His hand, warm and still. I looked up. He looked down. Neither of us said a word, and then I stepped back. He took the glass and poured himself some water. Calm, cool, like nothing had happened. But something had. I couldn't sleep that night. My skin buzzed like it remembered him, like it missed something that hadn't even fully happened yet. I hated myself for how alive I felt. I hated myself more for how much I wanted to feel it again. And then came the night everything cracked just a little more. I woke up around 2 in the morning. Couldn't shake the thirst, couldn't calm the tightness in my chest. The kind that doesn't come from heat or dreams, but from restlessness. From tension that's built up too long without release. I got up, barefoot, wrapped in my robe, and headed down the stairs. The kitchen was dark. The only light came from the moon, filtering through the window. And there he was. Stephen. Already standing there. Not drinking water. Not moving. Just standing in the shadows. Waiting. It happened on a Thursday night. Storm rolling and heavy from the west. Thunder shaking the windows like the sky was warning me, but I didn't listen. Tom was away, business trip in Chicago. Gone for 4 days. He barely kissed me goodbye that morning. Just grabbed his suitcase, said, "I'll text when I land," and walked out the door like it didn't matter whether I missed him or not. The rain started around 6. Slow at first, then harder, steady sheets that turned the world outside into a blur. I was curled up in bed with a book I wasn't reading, lights low, TV off, house unusually quiet. And then the power cut out. Just like that, dark. No hum from the air vents. No glow from the hallway. Just silence and rain. I waited for it to come back. It didn't. So I lit candles. One in the bathroom. One on my nightstand. One by the window. The room turned soft, flickering, golden. I sat on the edge of the bed and just breathed. And then I heard it. His footsteps. Soft, slow, intentional. A knock on the door, and his voice low. Almost hesitant. "Hey, you okay?" I told him I was fine, just the power. Nothing to worry about. He didn't leave. Instead, he stepped inside. He was wearing a plain t-shirt. Black. Fitted. Damp at the shoulders from the rain, he must have been near the window or stepped out for a second. His hair was messy. He looked like he'd been pacing. I asked if he needed something. He shook his head. "No, I saw your light. Wanted to check on you." He stood just inside the doorway. The candlelight reached his face, caught in his eyes. There was a tension in his jaw like he was holding something back. I couldn't speak. And then, in the soft dark between thunderclaps, he said it. "I didn't mean to see you that day, but I can't stop thinking about it." The words hung in the air like they'd been pulled out of his chest and dropped between us. No going back. No pretending. My heart skipped. My throat went dry. I didn't know what to say. So I didn't say anything. I just looked at him. And he looked back. Everything in me screamed that this was the moment. The moment where the line would be crossed. Or kept. But I didn't move. Neither did he. Until he took one step forward. Then another. Closer now. Close enough that I could smell him, something faint, earthy, clean. We stood there, barely inches apart. The silence stretched. My breath caught. And then, soft, slow, trembling, he leaned in. And kissed me. It was short. Barely there. Hesitant. Wrong. But real. So painfully real. His lips were warm. Gentle. Like he was asking, not taking. And when we pulled away, we didn't speak. We just stood there, breathing each other in. The space between us heavy with every word we didn't dare say. I looked at him. He looked at me. And for one heartbeat, I felt everything. Desire. Guilt. Longing. Shame. Relief. And something else I hadn't felt in years. Wanted. Needed. Alive. I wanted to say stop. I should have said stop. But the truth is, I didn't want it to end. The next morning, everything felt off. Not wrong, off. Like the house itself knew something had shifted. The walls felt tighter. The air a little too still. Even the light through the windows looked different, duller somehow. I got up early. Earlier than usual. I didn't want to risk running into him in the hallway. Didn't want to see the look on his face, or worse, not see anything at all. I made coffee, but it tasted bitter. I stood at the kitchen sink, mug in hand, eyes fixed on nothing, trying to breathe like my ribs weren't caving in. Stephen came downstairs about an hour later. I heard him before I saw him, the soft creak of the stairs, the way he always skipped the last step without making a sound. Except today, every step echoed. He walked into the kitchen, mumbled a quiet morning, and headed straight to the fridge. He didn't look at me. Not once. I wanted to say something. Ask him how he slept. Ask him what last night meant. Ask him if he hated me. But I couldn't find the words. And he didn't offer any. We moved around each other like strangers. Careful, distant, measured. The weight of the kiss still hanging in the air between us, unspoken and heavy. And that silence? It was worse than guilt. Worse than shame. It was absence. He was there, but gone. He sat at the table, ate a bowl of cereal without a sound. I sat on the couch, pretending to scroll through my phone, eyes not really reading anything. Just watching him from the corner of my vision, trying to read the lines in his face, the space in his eyes. He finished his cereal, rinsed the bowl, and went back upstairs. And I just sat there. Still. Empty. Tom came home later that afternoon. He dropped his bag by the door, loosened his tie, and asked, "Everything good here?" Like we were coworkers passing in the hall. I smiled. Said, "Yeah. Everything's fine." Lie. He didn't notice the way I hesitated. Didn't see how tightly I held the mug in my hand. Didn't catch the way my voice cracked. He just nodded, went upstairs, and disappeared into his usual silence. That night, we had dinner together. The three of us. Like a family. Tom at the head of the table, checking emails between bites. Stephen across from me, eyes on his plate, barely eating. Me, pretending the food didn't taste like paper. No one said much. Tom made a comment about the weather. I forced a laugh. Stephen didn't respond at all. He wouldn't look at me. Not once. He was distant. Cold. Like I was someone he didn't recognize anymore. And maybe I wasn't. I went to bed early, said I had a headache. And then I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling more alone than I'd ever felt, even more than before that kiss. Because now, I knew what it felt like to be seen again. And I knew what it felt like to lose it. I kept asking myself, did I ruin him? Did I break something in him that can't be fixed? He's just a boy, barely a man. Still figuring himself out. And I should have been the adult. Or maybe I didn't ruin him at all. Maybe I ruined myself. Maybe that part of me I'd tried to hold on to, the part that was still good, still decent, still whole, maybe that's what I lost in that moment when I let the silence swallow my better judgment. And yet, in the quietest parts of my mind, the parts I'm afraid to admit even to myself, I missed the way he looked at me before. Like I mattered. Like I was still something beautiful. Like I was worth noticing. And I hated myself for missing that. But I missed it all the same. I haven't slept in days. Not really. I close my eyes and it all comes back. Candlelight flickering, his shadow in my doorway, the warmth of his mouth, the way the air felt just before we crossed a line we can never uncross. I keep replaying it. Scene by scene. Every silence. Every glance. Every second that led us to that moment. And I wonder, when exactly did I stop being me? I tried to distract myself. Cleaned the entire house twice. Alphabetized the pantry. Reorganized the linen closet like that would somehow make my thoughts neater, cleaner, easier to live with. It didn't. I even tried therapy. Sat across from a woman with kind eyes and soft hands who asked, "What brings you here?" I opened my mouth and said nothing. I couldn't do it. How do you tell someone you crossed a line with your stepson? How do you say it out loud without choking on your own shame? So I lied. Said I was feeling disconnected. That my husband had grown distant. That I felt invisible. All true. Just not the whole truth. So instead, I started writing. This story, this whole mess, I've been putting it down on paper. Word by word. trying to pull it out of my chest and trap it in black ink where it can't hurt anyone anymore, where maybe I can finally see it for what it is. A confession. Not to ask for forgiveness. I don't think I deserve that. But maybe understanding. Maybe just a way to make sense of it all. Because I still don't know what to call what happened. I keep asking myself, was I the predator? Or was I just starving for affection? Was I looking for something I'd been denied for so long that when it finally showed up, in the wrong face, at the wrong time, I reached out without thinking? Or did I know exactly what I was doing? The truth is murky. It always has been. There are no clear lines in this story. Just blurred edges and half-choices that turned into real consequences. I can't justify what happened. But I also can't pretend I didn't feel something. Something I hadn't felt in years. Seen. Desired. Not in a vulgar way. Not like lust. But like I was alive again. And I hate how much that matters to me. I wonder if Steven told someone. A friend. A classmate. Maybe even his real mother, who never liked me to begin with. I wonder if he hates me now. If he thinks I manipulated him. If he's disgusted when he remembers that night. And then I wonder if he's hurting too. If he's lying in bed staring at the ceiling like I am, not knowing what any of this means. I've thought about leaving Tom. Packing a bag. Telling him I need space. Saying I'm unhappy, which would be true, but not telling him why. But then what? Start over? Carry this story into a new life and pretend I'm someone I'm not? Would that make any of this right? Or would I just be running from the wreckage I created? Because no matter where I go, I'm still me. Still the woman who crossed a line with someone she should have protected. Still the woman who let her hunger speak louder than her judgment. Still the woman who stood in the dark and didn't say no. I never wanted to hurt anyone. Not Steven. Not Tom. Not even myself. But in the silence of my own loneliness, I became someone I don't even recognize. Have you ever felt so invisible, so completely forgotten by the people who were supposed to love you, that you did something you never thought you were capable of? Something you can't take back? Something you can't explain without sounding like the villain, or the victim, or both. Have you ever looked in the mirror and not recognized the person staring back? Because I have. And I know I'm not the only one. There are things we carry in silence because the truth is too heavy to speak out loud. Because we're afraid of judgment. Of rejection. Of being told we deserve whatever pain we're drowning in. But silence doesn't fix anything. It just builds the walls higher. So, this is me tearing them down. This is my story. Not for sympathy. Not for attention. But because maybe someone out there is sitting in their own quiet room, staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering if they're the only one who's ever felt this way. You're not. And if you've ever done something unthinkable just to feel alive again. If you've ever battled with guilt, with loneliness, with a secret that keeps you up at night, tell me in the comments. You don't have to say much. Just enough to remind yourself you still have a voice. That your story matters too. And if any part of this hit something deep inside you, if it made you feel less alone or seen, or even just a little bit understood, please like this video. Subscribe. Stick around. Because every week here at Shocking Infidelity Saga, I'll be sharing stories like this. Stories no one dares to tell. But the ones we need to hear. Because sometimes the ugliest truths are the ones that free us the most. And if nothing else, I want you to remember this. Loneliness doesn't knock. It seeps in. Slowly. Quietly. Without warning. And if you're not careful, if you don't speak up, it'll take parts of you never meant to give. Parts you may never get back.